but I think discussing the psychology of the character and what has brought them to the moment of the scene is useful because you can have those discussions with the director, you can have those discussions with the writer. It doesn't waste time. It gets to the truth of the matter, and it actually moves the needle, affects the scene in a way.
Joe Massingill, welcome to Part of My Success.
Yay! I'm happy to be here.
It's so exciting to have you here. Joe is here as part of our third installment of the Aquila Studio Acting Series on PMS. And Joe is one of the instructors of both Master Scene Study with Deb and Activating the Character with Anna O'Dowd and Master Scene Study with Deb Aquila. So my first question to you, how did you first get interested in storytelling?
Oh my goodness. That's always a hard answer, only because I don't remember not being interested. Like legit. And maybe it's one of those things that, as we know with storytelling, like, you know, things grow in legend and grandeur.
Big fish.
But I have a memory of being on stage essentially my sister she was in ballet. She was pretty serious about ballet. She's 5 years older than me. I was 3. Mm-hmm. And I was just like tumbling around while she was in dance class. And I was, you know, hard to control and loud and obnoxious and doing voices and
perfect for the ballet.
Right. But when they did Babes in Toyland, they needed a little rambunctious kid to be the toy maker's assistant. And if you remember that, like he just gets frustrated that the sheep are following him. The memory is that I was really upset with the sheep. Is that I turned around and I was like, get away from me. I remember having that feeling of like, you are legitimately too close to me. And the crowd really laughed at that. And it was almost like this unlocking of like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know, it's not me wanting your laugh or your acknowledgement. It's just like, it's like you honestly exploring something can lead to such a big reaction.
That sounds so hilarious because I feel like you often say the thing about the salt.
The joke is it's why didn't I get the laugh? You know, when I asked for the butter in the table read, everyone laughed.
Yes.
When I asked for the butter on stage, nobody laughed. It's like because in the table read you asked for the butter, on stage you asked for the laugh. It's like you play the truth of the moment, and that's what I was able to put words to and unlock later. Much, much later, after years of exploration, like when I met Deb and really started working and kind of studying in Adler technique, I was like, oh, well, I'm just giving words to that. It's essentially like it's not you, it's outside of you. And if it's legitimately there and you legitimately care about it, then everyone can partake in that versus like something just for you or just for reaction's sake. Anyway.
Well, when did you meet Deb? How did that happen?
I had been out here in LA for a few years, struggling to make it, like writing plays.
Yeah.
You know, there in Santa Monica, the Theater Row. There's a few years there. Every Fringe Festival, we wrote something just to like write and get on stage, and then we can improvise, you know, through the bad parts. It's like, we'll just make it happen. But a few years later, I met manager I'm still with today. And a few months after getting with him, I booked a pretty big part in a movie called Trouble with the Curve. From a manager's standpoint, when you're looking just at the bill, it was like Clint Eastwood, John Goodman, Robert Patrick, Justin Timberlake, Bonnie Adams.
Wait, what?
Like just the billing itself was.
Justin Timberlake, what are you doing here?
It was insane, and then it was like Joe Massingill.
Wait, that's so cool.
But he suggested that I get coached on that. And it was so funny. I still remember that conversation. He's like, I'm not trying to say you don't know what you're doing.
But you need a coach.
But he was like, this is a big one.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to feel those nerves of that stress. I want you to feel armed. I want you to feel confident. And thank God he did, because anybody, I think, going from not working to being in that kind of environment, I had moments where it was borderline panic attacks and like breaking down. It's just such a, oh my gosh, I'm living in the middle of the dream. I hope I don't mess it up. He suggested I get a coach, and that's when he connected me with Deb, and I did 3 sessions with Deb. At that point, because of the stress and because of all the anxiety and pressure I was putting on myself, there was no way I could attempt the technique at that point, and she knew that. So it was like she was just giving me these little breadcrumbs to open up my imagination. And I could sense that. And I really liked that because it just made me think, any of those times I was wondering how to play a scene or wondering where to come from. It was like, just focus on his experience, his life, what he's trying to accomplish. What does his day-to-day look like? What's his relationship with his dad in school? Like all those specifics.
Yeah.
And you find such comfort in it, I think. So that was beautiful. And then shortly after that, she invited me to the master scene study, and I got a chance. Took me a while, but I think I got a handle of the technique on how to use it. And once that happened, comfort on set came.
Yeah. Joe is a professional actor. He has been in many, many projects, including, but not limited to, Barry, Catch-22, the movie that he just said the name of that I am forgetting right now, something about a curve with Justin Timberlake, so many projects. And how did you kind of transfer that into actually coaching?
This level of work, it just starts to like spill out of you when you're working with other actors, when you're working on set. That's why I always say, this technique is so useful because I think there's a lot of other useful techniques.
They're all tools for your toolbox.
Right. And they're all useful in their way. Absolutely. But I think discussing the psychology of the character and what has brought them to the moment of the scene is useful because you can have those discussions with the director. You can have those discussions with the writer. It doesn't waste time. It gets to the truth of the matter and it actually moves the needle, affects the scene in a way. I just got really excited about talking about the technique and talking about the literary analysis and story structure and screenwriting in general. I found I was understanding it better.
Yeah.
By teaching it, coaching it.
That's the way to learn is to teach.
Yeah, well, I found that if I can verbalize ideas that I understand, then it solidifies them in my own mind. When I moved back to Atlanta, because I'd lived in LA for 10 years, my dad had some health issues, and I'd always wanted to just be closer to family. But when I moved back to Atlanta, it was almost like that was the freedom I gave myself. Yeah. Like, it's a smaller market, or I don't know. It was like...
hometown advantage.
Yeah, I think I felt at least at the time that if I was going to start doing this, that it would have been harder in LA. I don't know, something I told myself. So as soon as I moved back, I was like, this is what I want to do. And there was a taping studio where I taped a lot of auditions. Actually, my manager knew the owner of that studio. And while I was there, he asked me if I wanted to do a workshop. And that was when I was like, okay, well, how else can I help out? Yeah. And I started coaching auditions, specifically like taping and coaching.
Huge.
And then teaching class. And Deb actually came to Atlanta a couple of times and did workshops in Atlanta. And that was one time that she came and did a workshop and I was just kind of helping set up and I was sitting there near her and it was halfway through the day and I'll never forget it, but she just turned and just locked eyes with me all of a sudden. She was like, what do you think? And it was hard to describe. It was emotional. Still can't hardly describe it. I get tongue-tied, like speechless. Like it was just a shock of, and not only that she wanted to know or she thought it might be helpful for who she was talking to, but I'm so excited that I had something to say after years of following along, trying to figure it out. I found those ideas that they were there readily. So I added something. And it was after that day where she had gone back and forth a few times and included me that she said, you can do this. Like you have a knack for teaching and I think you could be good at it if you focused on it. And it was like, that was all I needed.
I'm gonna cry, Deb. That's perfect. Well, how would you say that your coaching style has been completely unique to you, especially as a professional actor?
There's a lot of actors that work from this open, fluid place.
Yeah.
And I think there's a magic to that. And I think it's really helpful, even if you're working on something that's more intellectual, even if you're trying to get down to the core of what matters and find the specifics to where the story means what the author intended. I spent most of my life up until I was an adult and I was like, this is my career. It was always like a hobby. And so I had the benefit of, I think, being in many different subcultures throughout my life. I tried a little bit of everything. In high school, I didn't have one group of friends. I could be social with anyone. That was part of my own like young Chris Farley. Like I just make jokes. So it's like anybody wants the guy that makes jokes around. There's a different mentality that is not often brought to creative work of like, let's dive in and let's work. I've seen really good football coaches. It's a sport that I know is divisive. Some people love, some people hate, because it can feel like it's just this brutal, violent thing. But there's, I think, a lot of precision to it. Like just practicing the same thing over and over. And it's like you practice the important thing and you're always moving towards it. You almost understand it physically before you understand it intellectually.
Well, I think that's incredibly timely to discuss your activating the character class, because I feel like that is exactly what that class is about.
Yeah.
So how would you say that activating the character is different than the other class that you teach, Master Scene Study, or any other coaching that you have done?
I think it's interesting because there's so many classes like Master Scene Study where the focus isn't on performance, but it's on the interpretation or the expression of the scenes. It's just showing you how this can be effective and available like during the process, not at the end.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're gathering the facts, you're building the backstory of the character. I would rather you spent, 1 hour where you worked specifically and thought deeply about the meaning of the play and the specifics of the play for 20 minutes, right? You thought specifically about the life of the character and the history and the memories. So you're building a life for that character for 20 minutes. And then you literally stand up and do actions with the character. So that 1 hour to me is more beneficial than 3 hours of just study, right? And it focuses that research.
I feel like activating the character almost is like, okay, you've spent all this time intellectualizing the imagination, the backstory, all of the facts, all of how do you understand the play in your head. Now let's put it in your body. Let's stand up, breathe correctly, emote correctly, find out where all that sits in your body. So you're not just being like, okay, now I'm sad, be sad. Like that's so hard. That's so hard. But that's so cool. I love that you guys are doing that. When is activating the character?
Thursdays, 6 to 9.
So you can sign up. The link will be down below. All of this stuff. And then Master Scene Study, when is that?
Saturdays, 1 to 6.
Yes. Get out there. You can audit a class. I would love to ask you a little bit about your favorite experience on set.
It's 2 moments. They were back to back. I told you, I trained with Deb on that first movie, but I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. Like there was a lot of anxiety while I was working. I worked after that while I was starting to learn this technique, but I still constantly felt anxious on set. A lot of times it's also just you're playing like a guest star. You only have a few lines like hit your mark and shut up. There's not a lot of deep thought that they're allowing you. You know, it's like don't mess up. And I'm sitting there, I'm like on film. I have to be still. I can't move, and I don't want to mess up. So I just kept watching myself, and it's like, oh, it feels so robotic. It feels dead. Like that's not who I am in life. That's not who I am on stage. Like why is it coming off that way? So anyway, it was right around the time I've been working with Deb for a few years at this point. I felt confident in the technique, and I had just moved back to Atlanta, which for anybody, like if you spend time in LA, like, oh, you're going back home, like it can have those connotations. Like, nobody might even say anything, but you could be like, oh, I'm giving up on myself, or I'm not where the opportunities are, or whatever you can say to yourself. But I tried to keep my head up and just say, I know what I'm doing, and everything's on self-tape now. It doesn't matter. Like the work will speak for itself. And so right after that, I booked Catch-22. I had actually gotten passed on a bigger role, and then it was just the small role. If anybody's familiar with the book, the role of the Texan, just the chatty Kathy in the hospital that annoys everyone.
Yeah.
And it's very Southern, and the audition was just this long story about the Dodgers, and then somebody interrupts him, and they get into a fight. And I had the most fun with the audition, and I was such in a place of like, I don't care, like, screw you, Hollywood. But I booked that, and it was really cool because they flew me out to Italy, and it was Luke Davies who wrote the script. George Clooney and Grant Heslov were directing and producing. Christopher Abbott was the lead. He's so good. I had a long, long ponytail at the time, which you're playing a military character. So the first time I meet George, it was like we were all sitting at base camp. Hugh Laurie, Kyle Chandler, Chris Abbott, like all these names and faces, and I'm bugging out, and like leaned over, tapped me on the shoulder. Glad we got rid of that fucking ponytail.
Thanks, George.
And that's where he told me it was really cool too, because the Texan wasn't actually in that scene. Like in the scene where I was with Hugh Laurie and Kyle Chandler and everybody, it was at the end when Yossarian shows up naked. And he had told me that him and Grant and Luke Davies, the screenwriter who had wrote the movie Lion and won an Academy Award for it, like they had, when they were sitting around finishing up the script, they were like, God, we love the guy we got for the Texan. We'd love to have another joke or another moment or another bit. So they added lines to that scene before Yossarian shows up. So it was like a whole nother trip to Italy just for this joke. And that's where I got to meet everybody. So then when I came back a few weeks later to do the actual scene where I'm talking in the hospital, and I was feeling good, I felt like they were excited, they were proud. And Luke Davies had, in order for me not to be improvising, because it's a period piece and it's written by this great novelist, he wrote, this Academy Award winning writer, like sat down at the desk and wrote 10 pages of just stories for the Texan, because in the book it's like he's always just rambling, like they're talking, like it says that he is talking, but it doesn't have a lot of the specific like details. So he just wrote, sat at his desk, and he told me about it later. He's like, yeah, I just had to write what I thought a Texan would say. And it's the most beautiful, like there's this whole story about the stampede and like barely surviving the stampede, and like the difference in a hawk and a bird of prey.
I love that.
Like all just this messed up. And then the baseball stuff. And so I had all this time, flight to Italy. I had all this time to really work on the material and build the backstory. And I was really comfortable in the technique at that point. So he came to life for me. All the stories came to life. And because I'd already had that like boost of confidence from the creative team, when I showed up that second time, like all day we're shooting and I'm just in the background, but I'm running these monologues lost in my own little world. A lot of scenes where they just hear me in the background. So I'll be talking the whole scene and then the camera will cut over for like a sentence or two. But I'm totally oblivious to like what's going on. They just point to the section of monologues they want me to do. I'm smoking the herbal cigarettes. I'm just getting through the day. Chris is actually injured, so our actual fight, he can't fight. So
like real life injured.
Yeah, he had burned his arm in like one of the stunts they had done. So when they actually start choreographing the fight on the ground, Chris is like, and I could see it in his face, he hated to say it, but he's like, I don't think I can do that safely. Like that's gonna hurt. It's not gonna look real. So they're like, well, we can cover it with Joe's big broad shoulders.
So kind.
So it's just me without a stunt double wrestling the Italian captain, like just Greco-Roman wrestling on the floor. And we shoot that from a bunch of different angles. So I'm exhausted. I run all of these monologues. And then the director steps up to me and she said, we have a little bit of time and they've said we can do it. I would really love to get a couple of angles on the monologues. And I was like, at that point, I'm tired. I've been wrestling this Italian guy. But again, I felt so confident in like what I'd done all day. Like there was none of that anxiety I talked about. It was all like we're playing and I knew what I was doing and it all came to life for me. And so when she says that, I know the look on my face, like I'm tired, but she saw the little twinkle because I was like, that sounds exciting. And I was like, which one? And she goes, all of them. And so I was like, wait, okay, that's 10 pages.
10
like
pages.
That's, especially if you're doing these as stories and you're taking the time to tell the stories, like that's probably going to be 12 minutes of film, like in one take. And she's like, yeah, I'm only going to use pieces. Like this is just one long insert, but we just want to see you do it. And the cool thing is I've been working the technique. I've rehearsed all these things and then I've run them in the moment all day. So I've lived in each of these stories. So I sit back and relax after that wrestling match and everything else. And I think I went through 4 of the herbal cigarettes and just in between stories, I'd pause or I'd improvise with the guy in the cast. Yeah. And I totally got lost. Like I forgot everyone was there and I got lost in these stories. Anyway, they cut and everyone started clapping. And in my head, I was like, that's picture wrap. And, oh, thank you very much. And I'm so tired. And I stumble outside. I'm like, yeah, thank you guys. And I feel a pull on my arm and the AD had pulled me aside. He's like, I don't think you know what just happened. He's like, most of the crew is Italian and they've been on this project the whole time. And, they've had a problem with people learning their lines or, scenes getting cut or scenes taking too long because the lines have been a struggle and they don't even speak English. They just know when somebody messes up their lines. So they were all watching entranced.
As you messed up.
As I went for 10 minutes without anyone cutting and they didn't even really understand what was going on, but the crew was kind of caught up in that moment. And so they all reflexively like clapped. He's like, we still have more to shoot. He's like, they just thought that was cool.
Wait, what was the thing that he said to you in the Italian accent?
I don't think you understand what just happened. I said, yeah, picture wrap. He goes, no. He's like, they like what you just did. And he said, that was really cool.
Oh my God. Everybody go watch Catch 22 on Hulu. I'm going to be doing that right now.
Oh, the best part was after he said that and I stumbled around thinking about like, maybe somebody else liked what I was doing. That's when I spotted George in Video Village doing an impersonation of me, of what we had just recorded for the producer. And I was like, that's it. And that's when I realized it's not a pat on the back. It's not someone telling you did a good job. It's literally it's the producer saying, or the director saying, look how good what we shot is. It's them getting the story that they want to tell. And that's an exciting thing because that's what makes you feel. And that's why it's a 2-story because a few months later I booked Barry. And I was riding on that high. And to see Bill Hader, who I have a ton of respect for, after we shoot the big emotional climax of that character, to walk around the corner and the same thing. He wasn't doing an impersonation of me, but he was talking with the other writer that they were they got that done.
Yeah.
Right? It was just the relief of,
Like, oh,
here's
thank
this
God.
big emotional thing that we want to pull off in a certain way. Like, we're excited with what we got. And I was like, that's the ultimate thing. That's how you feel the comfort. Like, you're not seeking approval. Like, you're just trying your best to tell that story.
That's so sad. I can't believe George Clooney impersonated you. George, that's sick. You didn't tell me the George Clooney bit earlier, so I'm still shocked. I'm still processing that. Wow. Good job. Incredible.
Well, and here's the part. I'm sorry I'm going to waste your film because I don't want you to put this on the podcast because it always makes me sound so braggadocious.
Oh.
But that night, apparently after he did the impersonation, I was friends with a girl. She was in Master Scene Study. He's related to George. I think they're cousins. But she was playing the nurse in that scene. And so after that moment, and I look over and I see him, repeating the lines I had just said, that's when I spotted Tessa. And she said that George called me Maestro. And I thought she was bullshit. I thought it was fake. And I was like, whatever. And I said, shut up. And she's like, no, really great job. He did say that. But I totally slept that off until we were all at the bar that night with the producer and the director for that episode and Tessa and Chris Abbott and Luke Davies, the writer. And when we were going around, like, this was a great day today, and everybody was talking about their favorite part. Of Davies said, my favorite part was when George Clooney called you a maestro of specificity. That was quite the...
I'm keeping that in. I'm sorry. A maestro of specificity? Deb is going to cry.
That just makes me sound so like tooting my own horn.
I think we can keep all the parts of you wanting it not to be in. I'm keeping this in against Joe's will. Joe does not want this in, but I'm keeping it in because a maestro of specificity is maybe the most beautiful Adler-specific compliment that you could ever receive, and from George Clooney himself.
Didn't say it to me. This is just relayed from other people.
That's even better.
That he was saying to someone else.
That's even better because it's not like he was trying to compliment you. He literally gave you the most authentic, genuine compliment, not to your face.
And George, if you're watching it, if any part of that story was misinterpreted or miscommunicated, don't let me know the truth because I'm going to ride the rest of my life off of that.
And hire us, please. I'm so available. Joe's also available, but I am very available. Thank you. Okay, my last question to you before we go into actually working on things. What is a piece of advice that you have for young, aspiring creatives?
The biggest advice, I talk about it a lot, and I think it's interesting. Everybody I say this to, and maybe it's the reason I repeat it so often, is everybody's skeptical when I say this. Your biggest weapon as an actor is your mindset. So how you choose to organize your life and your goals and your dreams and your daily workflow, like how you choose to organize that and the story you tell yourself is your biggest weapon. I think too many people don't take an active look at that process of how you see the world and how you see your work within it. But if you don't examine it, it can be very harmful and it can hurt you.
Yeah.
Because the status quo does not want you to succeed in this work. They don't want you to succeed in this creative, imaginative work. They want you to fit into the system. So you have to kind of change the rules. It's almost like Delulu is the Solulu.
Delulu is the Solulu. Wait, I love that.
So again, I'm going to use an example that's incredibly grotesque or overt, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, do you consider yourself a part of a future army that has been sent back in time to educate us on the power of the human emotional spirit? It sounds completely delusional, but the more you can convince yourself of that thing, the more power your work is going to give you and the less someone else is going to be able to take away. Maybe that's a little ridiculous, right? For me personally, what I tend to connect to, we were writing and drawing and telling stories before we had language.
Yep.
So I feel like there's this surge of the human spirit to express what we see, and that helps our consciousness grow and grow to the point that it has grown. So in that, I feel like we're the secret order. It really is in my head. And if you're capable of self-delusion, then you can get a little crazy with it. And I encourage you to do it because it's going to protect you and keep you sensitive and vulnerable at the same time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Well, why don't we get to work? Joe here has chosen Oleanna by David Mamet for our play to work on today. I just read it earlier and realized that the movie Miller's Girl with Jenna Ortega was, I think, either loosely or largely based off of this play.
You can discover so much about the backstory and the details of the play just by talking about it with your scene partner. I know it sounds dumb, but it's like have those thoughts that where you're not sure.
Yeah.
I think too often we have to have everything figured out before we can discuss it. It's like, talk about it out loud, because what you're going to do is you're going to learn how you feel about these issues, and you're going to learn how your partner feels about these issues. And that's going to add layers to how you interact through the scene, especially when you start to take on the character and interact through those lenses. Like, there's this foundational thing of just communication, especially around, emotional thematic points. I'm just going to say that as a caveat. We're working on a Mamet play and we're doing backstory. Mamet has been famous for saying that, actors don't need backstory. He always says, invent nothing, deny nothing. So he doesn't want it to be dead, but don't add anything.
Yeah.
Just live the truth of the moment, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful sentiment. But I think I've seen so many great actors do the work. And when you see someone really dive into this work, like, the words take on such a specificity. And the audience, like, tell yourself that backstory. He doesn't throw specifics at you. He throws these terms that you have to try to understand the meaning for yourself and for your characters.
The play itself is just two characters the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
It is John and Carol. John is a 40-something graduate professor at an unnamed school, and Carol is a graduate student.
So he's on the phone at the beginning with his lawyer and his wife.
He's buying a new house.
Which I think is a really cool device. I've always loved that, because what it does for that first scene is she's showing up. It's clear that she hasn't scheduled a meeting.
Because he says, like, thank you for coming.
Yeah, he's shut his door and she's the last one in line, or she stays. He's on the phone and he's not, like, paying attention to her.
Oh my God. It's so frustrating because it's only 3 scenes. All takes place in his office. It's just the two of them talking the whole time. And the entire first scene is like him picking up the phone and having, like, one-sided conversations every other sentence. She starts a sentence and he's like, oh yes, please tell me more. Oh, phone pickup. And it's so frustrating.
But at least the audience thinks at the start that the phone conversation's about a house deal that's going on. What could have been an easy conversation is infused with this stress.
Yeah. Oh, so
right?
much
Like,
stress.
because there's moments, yes, where he's paying attention more to the phone call and it feels like, it's infuriating. There's also moments where it's like he doesn't answer the phone, which creates anxiety for the audience, because, like, if he told them he's supposed to be there 10 minutes ago, like, and closed the deal on the house, like, that's 15 minutes. Like, it plays this trick on your mind.
That made me so angry. Like, the first phone conversation that he has, first couple lines in the play, he's like, I'll be there in 15 minutes. And then he sits down, he's like, okay, so tell me why you're here. And you're like, you need to leave.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to take you easily over 15. I don't even know where you are. I don't know where you're going.
I think it's funny. That's why, if we're talking about the big ideas, right? Like, I think it's really interesting the way Mamet plays with gender there, right? Like, he creates these situations that seem so specific to the character, but you have this reaction to based on who you are.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're a man watching that, you're starting to lean towards John's, right? Like, hey, man, he's busy. He's stressed. Like, lay off him. If you don't understand the material, it's your fault, right? But if you're anybody and you hear him say to his wife, I'm going to be there 10 minutes later to the closing of the house, like, that creates a clock in your own internal system, because maybe you've been in a relationship like that, or maybe you've been in an important thing that it feels like they're not taking.
Like, why aren't you here?
Seriously.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Why are you still talking to her? She's like, you have to go. Like, don't you need to leave? And he's like, no, I want to talk to you. And she's like, why? And he's like, because I like you. And it's one of those things where you're like, but you do have places. Like, you need to leave. You, like, really got to go. And it isn't even until, like, the very end of the first scene that you find out that, I don't know if he realizes or he knew all along that the house closing isn't really the house closing. It's actually a surprise party for him for making tenure. And they're just trying to get him there faster because there's people waiting. And instead, he's sitting there just, like, talking to this girl and being kind of patronizing and condescending.
That's what I think is super interesting, and why it serves for a conversation. You find out she's filed this complaint against the school board for his sexual misconduct and his inappropriate behavior with her behind closed doors. It's really interesting, and why I love this play so much and why I think he's so smart is, if you look at the indictment, everything that she says, almost every accusation she makes, if you go back, like, genuinely,
you can see it.
If you look at everything, you can absolutely say maybe there's a miscommunication, maybe there's an unintended, maybe you should have been more, right? But it quotes him in the thing, says that he wants her to come back
multiple times
because he likes her.
You.
So it's phrased in the accusation that he said to her, come back multiple times because I like you.
And I will give you an A.
So it's this really interesting thing that she's quoted him. There's nothing wrong with that quote. But if we look at the scene where she says it, it's like, I want you to understand this material. I want you to come back so that you don't feel like this and you don't have this panic attack. And then she says, why? And he says, because I like you, because I think I see myself in you. Absolutely not saying it's the right thing to say. But that's what I'm saying is every accusation, it seems like, is spun
from,
in this way where it's like, I thought we were behind closed doors. I thought we were, which is what's so interesting because that's the Anita Hill thing. Like that's what this whole thing is written in response. Like right after the Clarence Thomas confirmation hearings. And Anita Hill, it's like the same thing. It's like we were behind closed doors. Is there some sort of like free zone for men to act like however they want? Like it's Me Too way before Me Too, right? But I think this is very interesting. Whenever you look at the complaint, that's why I say, like, absolutely, I think there's a level of condescension and patronization. I think he's really full of himself.
Oh, yes.
I think he's got a big ego. I don't think he's a bad guy.
No, I think that's the thing, is that if you go back, all of her complaints, well, in the first scene, she has a notebook, and she is quoting him back to him, where she's like, I didn't understand what you said this day. And he's like, I didn't mean anything by that. But she's like, but you did. And like, what does this mean? And she's like, when he's monologuing, she's taking notes. Everything that he's saying, she's taking notes.
No matter what in the complaint is genuine, no matter what you want to argue is genuine, I think there are factual, like, mistakes based on the intention that we watched in the first scene.
Yes. And I think that is the beautiful thing about the play, is that all of her, like, crimes against him in this huge indictment are all very real things that we saw him say, and that by themselves, out of context, are like definitely majorly problematic.
Grotesque.
And when you're sitting there reading the first scene, you're just kind of confused. I feel like you're like, okay, he's not paying attention. He's not really in this all the way. And she's confused and upset, and he's trying to comfort her. And that's the end of the scene. And it just becomes such a huge, out of proportion problem that she's like, you're not going to get tenure. You don't deserve to be at this school. In fact, I think we should ban your book from being taught in the school.
That's where it goes. So this is the second scene. She's come back in. He's requested that she come back in after she's filed the complaint.
And she's like, I shouldn't be here.
And essentially what you miss from the first half of the scene is he's on his best behavior. He's trying his best to be polite, even though it's clear he feels annoyed with having to deal with this situation.
Because he's like, you should recount this.
Like, this is not accurate. This is not true. He's fighting for himself and fighting for his career and his house, and he doesn't think he acted in the wrong.
Yeah. And so here we go. What gives you the right? Yes, to speak to a woman in your private... Yes, I'm sorry. You feel yourself empowered. You say so yourself, to strut, to posture, to perform, to call me in here. You say that higher Sorry.
No. It's awesome. I just want to, because it's so fun, and we're gonna be playing around with stuff as we move through this. It's just a little Mamet technical thing that you can have fun with, because I know it can be awkward. Anybody I know can be awkward. It's just a little tip. If you have something like that, like to speak to a woman in your private, where it comes off and you change your thought. In a lot of early Mamet plays, he wrote it specifically that those ellipses aren't a drifting off, but they're an interruption of thought.
Oh, so the yes just comes in.
And it doesn't have to be every time. It's just something fun to play with when you play with it. We start to say a sentence, and then
you remember.
And then we know that, that's too many words. There's a more efficient way to say it, right? Like we do that and we cut ourselves out. So like to invite her into your private, also, to do the, yes, are you fucking kidding me? Like some of those cutoffs, it's just fun to play with because again, naturally we can kind of shy away from them.
Yeah.
So even in like an early read or in a rehearsal, it's kind of fun to infuse those with that intention, right?
Okay.
That like if you were to cut yourself off and say yes, like you don't even need to finish the image you're creating, right? It's almost like a bumper cart trying to turn around,
Yeah. Okay. What gives you the right? Yes, to speak to a woman in your private. Yes. I'm sorry. You feel yourself empowered. You say so yourself. To strut, to posture, to perform, to call me in here. And you say that higher education is a joke and treat it as such. You treat it as such and confess to a taste to play the patriarch in your class, to grant this, to deny that, to embrace your sin.
How can you assert? How can you stand there and say that
you deny it? You did it to me. Here. You confess. You love the power to deviate, to invent, to transgress whatever norms have been established for us. And you think it's charming to question in yourself this taste to mock and destroy. But you should question it, Professor. And you pick those things which you feel advance you. Publication, tenure, and the steps to get them you call harmless rituals. And you perform those steps, although you say it is hypocrisy. But to the aspirations of your students, of hard-working students who come here to slave, to come here, you have no idea what it costs me to come to this school. You mock us. You call education hazing, and from your so protected, so elitist seat, you hold our confusion as a joke and our hopes and efforts with it. Then you sit there and you say, what have I done? And ask me to understand that you have aspirations too. But I tell you that you are vile. And that you are exploitative. And if you possess 1 ounce of inner honesty you describe in your book, you can look inside yourself and see those things that I see, and you can find revulsion equal to my own. Good day.
Wait a second. Will you just 1 moment? Nice day today.
What?
You said good day. I think that it is a nice day today.
Is it?
Yes, I think it is.
And why is that important?
Because it is the essence of all human communication. I say something conventional, you respond, and the information we exchange is not about the weather, but that we both agree to converse. In effect, we agree that we are both human. I'm not an exploiter, and you're not a deranged, revolutionary? That we may have positions and that we may have desires that are in conflict, but that we're just human. That means that sometimes we're imperfect. Often we're in conflict. Much of what we do, you're right, in the name of principles is self-serving. Much of what we do is conventional. You're right. You said you came in the class because you wanted to learn about education. I don't know that I can teach you about education, but I know that I can tell you what I think about education, and then you decide, and you don't have to fight with me. I'm not the subject. And where I'm wrong, perhaps it's not your job to fix me. I don't want to fix you. I would like to tell you what I think, because that is my job, conventional as it is and flawed as I may be. And then if you can show me some better form, then we can proceed from there. But just like nice day, isn't it? I don't think we can proceed until we accept that each of us is human. We could still have difficulties. We will have them. That's all right too. Now.
Wait.
Yes. I want to hear it. Yes.
My position.
Tell me, I want to hear it in your own words, what you want and what you feel.
Yes. My group.
The
people I have been talking to.
That's no shame in that. Everybody needs advisors. Everyone needs to expose themselves to various points of view. It's not wrong. It's essential. Good. Now you and I, the phone rings.
Ring, ring.
Good. Awesome. I want to try something real quick.
Yeah.
Before it launches into the second part.
Okay.
Because it feeds the second part. Really great. Like the passion, that's where she's at. It feels unbridled. It feels uncontrolled. It feels like a stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
When she came in to be very prim and proper, here she is. It feels like she's losing her composure just a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I just want to point really specifically to the group.
Your group. Yeah. It's
a huge turn in the scene.
Is there a group?
It's a huge turn.
Because she mentions this from here and going on from here, that she has a group, my group, that she is in fact speaking on behalf of. Yeah.
When did you join this group?
Ooh. That's actually a really good question. Because here's what I was thinking. She felt so alone. When she comes in the first scene, she's like, I don't know anything. I don't know what's going on. Everybody else in the class seems to know and understand and are all talking, and I hide in the back and I don't know what's going on. And then she has this whole interaction with him where she leaves obviously like a little weirded out. He tries to like hug her and she's like, please get away from me. Like, what the hell? Which, fair. I mean, as a student, when you're like meeting with any older man who is in a position
to be
of power.
fair, they had already touched earlier in the scene when she started to have a panic attack. She did not, so there wasn't consent.
Yes,
but she did not reject his touch. She was having a panic attack.
And he like put his hand on his arm.
And he grabs her, or he touches her by the shoulders to calm her. He touches her arms, and she calms down.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not. Again, I'm not like it.
But
it's a total gray area, and I'm not justifying anything. It's absolutely no. You should 100% teachers should not touch. But I think that the nuance there is what makes Mamet so smart, right? She has this moment of emotional instability. She's starting to lash out. He, like anybody would, tries to help and ease the situation. Okay, maybe like a old white guy would, to like hold on to someone and like, stop feeling things. The touch has already been initiated. Yeah. Like there can be absolutely something that's miscontinued. But I just think it's really specific. When did you join the group? Right?
Was it? Did she make the complaint?
Did she take notes of everything everyone says all the time just naturally? She does that because she was a type A student that needed to write everything down and make sure, and so that she just happened to have all this written down, and she was upset after the meeting, and her roommate or someone else said,
like, it almost, because she never brings them up in the first. She doesn't have a group. She's so alone.
Just entertained that she joined the group beforehand. Is she on the outside of the group? Yes. Is she going to the meetings and feeling like she wants to be a part of it? So I'm saying again, if she joined the group beforehand, it says two different things. It like one, there's a nuanced way where it's not like undercover operation.
No.
There is a world where she joined the group and she wants to be a part of it, and they talked her into this, and they're planning on trying to initiate this after hours meeting to see if something happens. So then you can play with the game of nothing really happened, but she wrote down everything he said, and they're able to make this complaint outside of the context of what really happened because she had a different intention.
Notes. I think because she already had notes and was coming in taking more notes on everything that he has ever said. It almost makes you believe that she is looking for something.
But that's what you get to play with, where your truth is. So, but if you play with that, or again, there's a nuanced way of looking at that as well, where it's not just an undercover operation. Maybe she's nervous and she doesn't have her own community here on campus. So my only question is, and I know it's from a place of he absolutely wronged you, right? So my question, when did you join the crew, and do you like him as a person? Is there something redeeming about him, the reason you wanted to take his class, the reason you wanted to read his book, the reason you wanted to understand better? Is there a reason you didn't just drop the class?
Well, I think the thing that would draw me to him is the fact that he has all of these avant-garde, thoughts about education and schooling. And if I so clearly don't know why I'm here, but I have struggled so hard to get here, that seems like something I would want to understand.
Okay.
Why is it that I am here?
Because I think it's super interesting. And we do have to kind of mention what happens at the end of the play now, because so at the very end of the play, he has spent days in a hotel.
Yeah.
Because he can't go home, probably because he's been kicked out, because the board has accepted her complaint. They've denied him tenure, and they're deciding on whether or not to fire him. They decided he needs discipline, and they're trying to decide whether or not to fire him. So he holds up in a hotel. He dissects the complaint. He tries to build his own argument, but really he's unraveling and falling apart. And then for whatever dumb reason, he calls her again.
Come back.
He says, come back to the office.
Please,
she does it. So here's where the question, like what motivates you to go back to the office that third time? Because the turn of that scene too is that he's about to lose his job, but because he hasn't been home in 2 days, he doesn't know that she's actually escalated this to the police.
Yep.
So she's actually filed an assault charge based on what happens at the end of scene 2 when she tries to leave the room, and he tries to stop her and holds her back. So she leaves the room screaming, help, help, help.
Yeah.
Which leaves us past the point of no return. And that's why this moment is so great, because it's literally right before that.
Yeah.
And the phone ringing, I think, is a trigger or an activation for you.
Yeah. Because it's like, you still aren't paying attention to me. You're still ignoring me. You're still choosing other things over me when this is clearly the most important thing. You're going to lose your house, your family, everything.
You just said that. It's so interesting. You just said that. You just hit on it. You just hit on it so clearly. I think you tried to cover it, and you tried to move on to talking about like, oh, your house and your family, but you just said like, you're going to focus on something else other than me.
Yeah, she feels very overlooked, especially from that first scene. Honestly, I think she did like him, did want the help, and it's like the treatment that she receives in that first scene, she feels so unseen still. I mean, so misunderstood, even though he's trying to tell her like, okay, I'm going to help you, I'm going to do all these things.
So at the very end of the play, she basically comes back in and says, oh, you're going to go to court. I'm not going to recant anything.
Because I also said that you raped me.
You deserve this. That's what she's escalated to the police.
Yes.
She says that it is rape.
That you tried to stop me.
And that's when he says, get out. leave, and his wife calls back, and she says to him, the last thing she says, she stops herself from going out the door after this huge explosion of I'm leaving and you're screwed and you deserve this. And he says get out, and he's resigned and he's given up. It looks like he's super depressed, and he just says to his wife, sorry, baby, I'll be home very soon.
And she says, don't call your wife baby. And he literally starts beating the
He loses his mind.
Literally loses his mind.
It's one of the reasons I love the movie version of it so much, because William H. Macy does a really incredible job in this moment. He almost smiles.
It's like he's been waiting
when he first hears it, because he's so defeated, and he hears her say, don't call your wife baby. And he comes up with like, what? Like, it's such a genuine, like...
What the hell did you just say?
Like, I'm so confused by the words that just came out of your mouth. And he goes white hot, and he loses his mind, and he says, you know, screw you. I wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole, as he beats her, and he raises a chair over his head for a killing blow and stops himself.
Sets it down.
Mid-chair throw, realizing the calamity that he's just caused.
And she's like, well.
And he says, that's right.
That's right. That's right.
After getting her ass kicked, almost murdered in this office.
It's like she was waiting
She
for that.
says to him, and that's where, again, I'm not offering like what those words mean. I just think it's really important to think about right here in this moment.
Yeah.
Is what does she say at the end after she's triggered the absolute colossal atomization of who this guy is and actually like reverted him back to a primate?
Yes. Well, but I think maybe her entire thing from the beginning is like, this is who you are. You are evil. There is something wrong with you that you are hiding, and you want power, and you want power over people. And that's why you shouldn't be a teacher. That's why you shouldn't be here and all of this stuff. And it's like when he actually loses it and starts hurting her, she's like, I knew it all along. This is what was underneath. This is what I've been saying. This is what I've been protecting all of the students against. This is what I knew was ultimately your entire prerogative. I was right. And I understand much better than you.
Okay.
That was my take.
No. I don't think you're wrong. I absolutely think there's a layer of that. I don't see how you go from don't call your wife baby to this was the monster I always thought you were.
Oh, the don't call your wife baby is an obvious, like, callback to him being like, I'm not your father. And then she has a whole thing in her monologue about, like, how patronizing you are and you're so sexist and you treat everyone, including your, like, wife and family and everyone as, like, your objects and your possessions. And, like, you are this obvious, like, patriarchal, authoritarian figure and all men are like this. And even though you try to write these books and act like you're such an intellectual, educated person who is so, you know, in touch with their reality and like so enlightened. But at the end of the day, you deep down to your core are just a man. You're just a man, and men are evil. And I don't know if that's like her thing, but I do think there is an underlying thing where it's like, I know that you deep down are evil.
Okay.
And I'm waiting for it to
You're
happen.
very passionate about it. And I think that's right. But right now, all I'm going to say is there's nothing wrong in what you're feeling and what you're thinking. That's great. We all tend to do that.
Yeah.
We tend to like make the argument for our character and put all the horses in that rein, and they are so right and they are so righteous. That's not really interesting to watch.
Sorry.
So that's not a problem. No, but you know that, right? Intuitively, right? If it's like I'm right and there's nothing that I'm questioning and there's no conflict.
Yeah. Okay.
Then it just drives straight through and he kicks your ass and you say, yeah, like that's what I was trying to get you to do the whole time. Or I'm just offering in the moment where you've obliterated him, you've accused him of, you say, yeah, you're like, right. Yeah. And this is not for interpretation. Yeah. Like, this is not, like, we can talk about that first scene and what might be patronizing and what might be not. Like,
there was no, like, actual assault that happens until this moment.
So again, if you think he's wrong, like, your retribution, that you say you're not taking retribution, that you say you're changing the system, but your path for changing the system is, in effect, like, he loses his house, he loses his tenure, he loses his job, and now he's probably going to go to jail and lose his wife and kid as well. Yeah. That's just the fact of what happens, right? Yeah. So would you agree that that is awful? Like, not like deserved, maybe, but I'm saying, like,
those are all bad.
Those are awful things.
Those are awful things to happen.
So what good does it add to say, don't call your wife baby on the way out the door? Like, what do you gain from that? Because what that entire interpretation is, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying that, like, it's very interesting to But my point is, you're operating like she chose that consciously, and she knows the consequences of that statement, of that word.
I don't think it was consciously. I don't think she expected this to happen. I don't think she wanted this to happen. I do.
Oh, you don't think she expected what to happen and didn't want what to happen?
Him to like hurt her, like physically.
Okay.
I don't think she was coming in here anticipating that this would happen. But she obviously she came with a list of books that they want to ban from. That she says, I will revoke everything that I've said. I will take it all back. I will talk to the committee. I will make sure you don't get fired. I will get you a tenure back if you comply with all of my group's wants.
Demands.
All of our demands. And he's like, I'm not doing that.
So I go back to my first question with that. When did you join the group and how long has this been the plan? But it's so hard for me, I think, to like the sorry baby. It just keeps coming back. You're saying that him referring to his wife as baby is misogynistic.
Well, I think she sees that as you're being condescending to your wife.
Everybody calls their significant other or the person they love baby. I don't think that specifically is him referring to her as baby in an infantilizing way, because throughout the play he says like, listen, babe, come on. Like he talks to his wife with loving language, and it's very clear that she takes up a lot of his attention and his priority and then you say after he's lost his whole life. What I've always decided is that his wife was a student that he met, and they got together in an honest way. It wasn't a dark secret, but she knew that was always capable, so she was insecure about it. So he's always been afraid of something like that. So she can believe it easier, right? So now he's sitting there having to tell her and having to pick up the pieces and hopefully save his marriage. Why in that moment do you have to hit him with the sorry baby? Do you think that baby is a signal of his misogyny, or do you think it's a signal of his love to her?
And I'm angry that he loves his wife.
I don't know. I'm not trying to make her petty. I'm not trying to make it reductive. I'm just trying to say that feels really specific to me.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. It's almost it's almost like a biting jealousy where it's like she wanted him to be interested.
But all she's been saying especially this whole last scene is, we'll give you our demands. We have very reasonable demands. We want your book gone. I'm sorry this has happened, but it's happened. This is not, and you haven't been accused. You've been found guilty. Like, I'm sorry you've lost your job. She's so businesslike. Yeah. When in scene 2, she called him vile. Yeah. You just did she calls him vile.
It's like her status within the group has definitely risen with this entire thing. It's like they were looking for someone.
She has that. I don't think it's simple.
No. Okay.
I don't think it's just one thing. And it also goes back to my group, because I think if there's actual hesitation here, if there's something in him that you do want to connect with, then your mind might be changed before the phone rings.
Oh, so true.
Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool if it's like, if he has you and the whole audience is like, this whole thing's going to go away, it's going to be fine. And then we have to sit with the...
She took my attention, and so then it's like okay.
And now he has to make the choice while she's staring at him. What are you going to do?
Your wife for me. Like choosing your wife for me.
And he goes, give me just a second.
Oh, it's so infuriating.
And then in the moment he comes back from that conversation, he comes back, he says, we were talking, I was saying, she goes, you're right, we are going to talk about it at the hearing. Let's not talk anymore. So it's conversation. The moment he comes back, he says,
thank you so much. Thank you, Joe. You are the best. We really appreciate you coming on. Everybody go sign up for all of Joe's classes. I'm a hot mess. Pardon my success. Pardon my success. Pardon my success.
Are you PMSing?